The Morrison government isn't just at war with the states like Victoria, it's now fighting also China, fighting back after China's ambassador warned that if we kept pushing for an independent inquiry into how this whole damn virus started in China, we could face a Chinese boycott of our exports. Here's Trade Minister Simon Birmingham today, one of several ministers not happy.
In no way is the Australian government going to change our policy positions on matters of public health in response to any suggestion of economic coercion from the representative of another nation. Hundreds of thousands of people have died. Hundreds of millions have probably lost their jobs. Billions of people have suffered disruption to their lives. And it's not asking much that there be a transparent investigation to ensure that the world learns from this and that we are better placed to prevent the impacts of such pandemics in the future.
How could China possibly disagree with that proposition? But where is this fight going? Because the Chinese ambassador has released a statement tonight or this late this afternoon that doesn't show like he's backing down at all on his threat.
No, and what was noticeable is this statement was about a phone call from the Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Frances Adamson. She's one of the most senior public servants in this country, and so to have this coverage of the phone call at all is quite remarkable, and they really took issue with what was said apparently in this phone call. What they've said is that she admitted that they can't have this inquiry in that time. That doesn't seem to be exactly what the government's perspective is, but what this shows in a really interesting way is the government continuing with this. Often in these situations, people do back off, that they do think it's a bit too contentious. The Chinese ambassador released the full transcript of the interview, and that perhaps gave some context to the fact that it wasn't leading with these comments about a trade boycott, but they certainly were there, enough to upset the Australian government. But this is also really key. We're really taking the lead on this on an international stage. And so there is obviously momentum to use Australia's position as a middle power here to be able to prosecute the case for this inquiry. And they seem to have taken their own interpretation of when this inquiry will happen into the pandemic in China. There has been this request from Australia that this inquiry include powers like weapons inspectors have to go in the future and inspect these pandemics, so we don't have to wait a few months before we are notified like we saw with the coronavirus notifications coming out of China, and they've taken real issue with that. They've said that the Australians admitted that we won't be starting this inquiry during the pandemic. That doesn't seem to quite be the line we're hearing out of Australia, but certainly very strong language from the Trade Minister there, which shouldn't be underestimated, that they are really taking a strong stance on this and not backing away from it.